What I love about working with Dr. Huggett is he just makes everything so silly and fun, and his patients just light up when he comes into the room. It's a lot of fun. Dr. Huggett shows compassion many ways. He is the most compassionate, kind person you could ever meet, and that's to anyone he comes in contact with. One thing I have learned from Dr. Huggett that I use would just be to, just take things as they come. Try not to get stressed out. We work through it, and he's a very strong leader. He helps us all with that kind of strength.
What I love the most working with Dr. Huggett is watching him interact with his patients. As another provider, I don't get to follow him into a room with a patient, but I get to see those little interactions that he has out in the hallway, saying hello or goodbye, and I just see the joy that he gets from his young patients. Dr. Huggett shows his compassion really just through his demeanor and his smile. You can see that love that he has for them when he greets them, or when they're going for a procedure downstairs, or just ending their visit. Dr. Huggett with staff is always compassionate, always interested in what's going on in their lives, and is always listening to them. Dr. Huggett has taught me to give people the gift of time. Dr. Huggett takes time to listen to staff, to listen to his patients, and really get to know them, and I see that every day.
What I love about working with Dr. Huggett is how he is so compassionate about not only his patients, but us as employees as well. He's always making sure that we've got what we need and what his patients have as well. He also likes to plan ice cream parties for us, so we've learned everybody's favorite ice cream flavors, and he's just really good with that stuff. Dr. Huggett shows compassion to his patients and staff by making sure each patient is heard. He makes sure that he spends adequate amount of time with them, making sure every problem is addressed and nobody's leaving there unhappy. With staff, if we're having an issue, he jumps in as kind of like the problem solver to see what he can do. Working with Dr. Huggett, I've learned to really read through, like if we're doing in-basket stuff especially, just reading through those messages, making sure we're addressing everything as thorough as we can so that nothing's left unaddressed.
Well, there's many things that I love about working with Dr. Huggett. He is very quiet, but one of the kindest souls that I've ever met. He's always looking to help us as medical assistants. Anything he can do to help, especially like if we have some floats over in the suite. The first thing he'll say to a float is, please let me know how I can help you throughout the day. Not necessarily telling them this is how I want you to do something, and he's just very appreciative. Dr. Huggett's just very compassionate. I would say all of his patients love coming to see him. They highly recommend him to friends and family. And when it comes to staff, I mean, he's there, whether it's one of the staff's fundraiser for a child, or even just can tell like if the staff morale might be down. He's bought ice cream for everybody in the middle of summer, just as something to kind of get us through the day. I think he just brings this sense of positivity that sometimes In our career, we get overwhelmed with all sorts of obstacles throughout the day, and sometimes we get down and get negative, and I think he brings this positivity that really radiates and extends through the staff when he's there.
What I love about working with Dr. Huggett is that he is very genuine. He is one of the most genuine people I've met. He's great with his patients, their families. He's beloved by all of our staff and, of course, by his patients and their families the most. So Dr. Huggett shows a lot of compassion for his patients. He loves to spend a lot of time with them, making sure all their questions are answered. He's very thorough, and he's a great listener. So all his patients absolutely adore him. As a provider, I have learned from Dr. Huggett being exceptionally thorough, taking the time to really listen to patients and their needs, and figure out as a team what's going to work best for them. You know, we're all in it to make sure that our patients are as healthy as they can be, and Dr. Huggett really exemplifies that.
What I love about working with Dr. Huggett is that he's very approachable. He's very friendly, he's very thoughtful. He is one that you can go to and be transparent with and know that you are going to be able to confide in him and that you're going to get a response that is thoughtful and kind. And I just appreciate knowing that I can go with him with any concern that I have and that he will take that matter seriously and that I will be heard. Dr. Huggett shows compassion to patients and staff by being present. I feel that he will change his approach, whether he's talking to one of the clinical staff members, the front desk, myself, or patients and families. He will tailor his approach to ensure that what he's communicating is heard and that it's understood. And I just appreciate his approach to communication and that he's so very thoughtful in doing so. What I've learned from Dr. Huggett is to slow down, to consider all perspectives when approaching a concern or a problem. What I've learned from him that it is beneficial to be humble and kind and think the best of others. He's been a pleasure to work with, and I appreciate his approach to patient care and being a team member.
The thing that I love most about working with Dr. Huggett is how he always puts his patients first. I've gotten to know him over the last couple of years, and every decision that we make together, the patients are at the forefront of that decision. Dr. Huggett shows compassion to his patients by making sure that all different areas, different ages, different people from different backgrounds are all represented in his decisions that he makes in terms of how we're going to deliver care and work together as a practice. He's committed to the entire community that he serves and the entire community that Bronson serves in his advocacy work for children in general. One thing that I've learned from Dr. Huggett that I try to use in my practice and every day as we make decisions about how to care for kids is to always think about the families and the impact that these decisions will have on our families from all different areas throughout the community.
One word I would use to describe Dr. Huggett would be kind.
Dr. Huggett is gentle. You know, he has a gentleness about him that kind of pulls you in and makes you at ease.
One word I would use to describe Dr. Huggett is just amazing. I've been with him for 6 years now, and he's just awesome.
One word to describe Dr. Huggett, I would say compassionate. I mean, that's really all-encompassing for him. But he's so much more than compassionate because he's intelligent and caring and very meticulous, his thought processes, but I would say compassionate.
So a word I've used to describe Dr. Huggett, and he's gonna hate me for this, is a unicorn. Because he is, first of all, I say he's a rare sighting because he's always either in a room with patients or in his office working on documenting and looking up the newest and greatest things in medicine. So I actually tend to bombard him with unicorn stickers. It's kind of an inside joke between us. But he's also a rare person. He's just one of a kind.
One word I would use to describe Dr. Huggett is humility. In all that he does, he comes from a place of service. He is here to provide care. He's a physician, but he's one of the most humble persons that I know, and even receiving this award will be difficult for him because he does practice from a place of humility.
One word that I would use to describe Dr. Huggett is committed. He is committed to his patients, to the Children's Hospital, and to the communities that he serves.
One of the things that I love most about working with Dr. Madero is that he is truly genuine in his care and concern for patients. Dr. Madero shows compassion for his patients by really truly treating them as he would one of his own family members. I think that patients really feel special when they're under his care, and he treats all the staff with respect and really makes them feel like they're a valued part of the team. I try to emulate Dr. Madero in always acting in a very caring and calm manner. I think that he really provides his patients a very wonderful sense of calm, compassion, and just true care that I think all of our patients deserve. They're very lucky to have him.
So what I love about working with Dr. Madero is that he always seems to re-energize me about patient care. I've known Dr. Madero since I started here at Bronson, and every time I'm feeling a little burned out or a little tired from the work, when I get a chance to talk with Dr. Madero, it really recharges me. We kind of sink back into what brought us into medicine, which is patient care, caring for individuals, caring for humans, trying to do what's best for each patient in front of us. And we would discuss ways to do that, and it always just reminded me of why I went into medicine in the first place. So I really value that about him. So Dr. Madero shows compassion to his patients and staff by being fully present to them. I think about the word compassion and what it means, and for me it's really about being with a patient and in some ways sharing in their suffering and their illness in a way that makes them fully human, and understanding them as a human being in front of you. And so when I think of the way Dr. Madero cares for his patients, there was never a question that this was another human being, that he understood and sympathized with their suffering and really took it personally about how to alleviate their suffering and to get them through whatever illness they were dealing with. So as a provider, what I've learned from Dr. Madero is to think about every situation, every illness, every patient encounter as an interaction between two human beings, and to really spend the time and the energy and the caring necessary as I would any family member or any good personal friend. That's the way we interact with all of our patients. And I also saw Dr. Madero extend that to nurses and to other members of the care team and treat everybody like a human being. And it's something that I try to remind myself to do in my own practice here at Bronson.
What I love about Dr. Madero is his absolute joy for patient care. He comes in with a smiling face every single day and a joyful attitude. Dr. Madero shows compassion for his patients and staff by listening to their needs and really honoring their wishes. As a physician, what I've learned from Dr. Madero is just being humble and being down to earth with all of my patients.
What I love about working with Dr. Madero is his commitment to the team. He's punctual, he's attentive, he's engaging, and he really helps the team lead. Dr. Madero shows compassion to his patients and staff in many different ways. He advocates for his patients. He really goes above and beyond on a regular basis to advocate for every one of his patients. What I really enjoy about his approach to patient care is the fact that he gives the patients the time they need, one at a time, and not really make assumptions. As a provider, what I use in my practice that I've learned from Dr. Madero is really paying attention to details and being patient with my approach to patient care. Having the time dedicated to the patients on a regular basis. And the other piece that he frequently has been outstanding and that I envy and try to emulate is his engagement with the care team, including the nurses.
I love working with Dr. Madero, like in almost all aspects of medicine. He's, I can always rely on him being, thorough with his patients, collecting the right information, and being there and advocating for all aspects of care while the patient is in the hospital. Well, Dr. Madero is a very compassionate physician in person as well. I think that for every single little thing he does, he is doing to try to do the best and make the patient comfortable with the plan. He's very thorough, caring, and genuinely care about patients. What I have learned from Dr. Madero that I have been using in my practice is a multitude of things, but especially always trying to keep patients first, and that goes by, advocating for the patient, in things the patient needs in the hospital, actually going back to study and understand, if we have any questions, things related to patient's condition, and mostly always trying to bring the patient, to be part of the healthcare team, like getting patients to be comfortable with the plan and, giving their opinion about what they think of the suggested plan for it.
One word that I would use to describe him is dedicated. He truly is dedicated to the work that he does and the care that he provides.
So one word that I would use to describe Dr. Madero is caring. He always cares about his patients first and foremost, regardless of whatever else was going on at the time with staffing or schedules or politics or the chaos around us in the healthcare system. He always brought it back to the person and caring for that individual patient in front of him. And so I think caring is the most important aspect of what Dr. Madero brings.
One word I'd use to describe Dr. Madero is inspirational. He's honestly an inspiration to me. He was one of the first physicians I met when I came here to Bronson, and he really makes me want to be a better physician.
One word to describe Dr. Madero is really compassion.
It's hard to describe Dr. Madero in just one word, but maybe I would just use excellence.
What I love about working with Carla is that she is unapologetic about demanding better everything for our patients, for our staff, for the nurses in the front desk. If she sees something that isn't the way it should be, she gets it fixed and she doesn't mince words or just allow things to not be as good as they possibly can be. Carla shows compassion by fighting every day for every little thing that will make their lives a little bit easier and a little bit more tolerable. Our patients struggle with so many things, and so much is so hard about what we do for them and to them with our treatments that she goes the extra mile to make sure that any little thing that we can do to make their lives better, we do. And it's also hard for our nurses and for our front desk staff because we have a very emotional job. And so she takes that, makes that extra step to try to fix whatever little thing she can so that our jobs are a little bit easier and so that our patients' lives are a little bit better. I have learned from Carla not to accept the status quo, but to say, that didn't go well, that's unacceptable. We're gonna find a way to make that better and fix the system so that we don't have to keep working around it or making do, but getting it better and making it better for our patients and our staff.
What I love about her is her compassion, which I know is kind of cliche for this, but her compassion for her patients and the love of her job. She is such a big advocate about everything she does for her patients, whether it's coming to nursing and teaming up with them or doctors to get the best care possible for her patients and to take their patients' mind off of why they're there too. Dr. Schwalm shows compassion to her patients and staff by bringing smiles to their faces on a daily basis. For example, one of the first stories I have with Dr. Schwalm is the first time I met her coming in with rainbow shoes and flamingo earrings, just anything to bring a smile to everybody that's around her and just bring fun and enjoyment to some of the worst case scenarios that people are in. I have learned a lot from Dr. Schwalm for my practice. Being a nurse at the bedside, we get to work many days in a row with these patients and providers. So Dr. Schwalm is one that has taken us at the bedside to teach us different ways to do procedures, different ways to help each patient with their pain and help them cope. I have learned how to be more compassionate and how to be more involved with my patients through Dr. Schwalm.
I love working with Dr. Schwalm because when she's working on a project, she shows up 100%. She's good with follow through, brings all of her energy and passion to whatever project we're working on. She shows compassion to both her staff and patients in different ways. I think with staff, she comes, she's ready to work with each other, work with the whole team, solve problems, have open discussions, and just works with staff one-on-one like people. And I think she works with patients by being a strong patient advocate. So she decides what the individual patient needs, and then really follows through on trying to make that happen for that person. I've learned from Dr. Schwalm that we need to keep making changes to improve care all the time. So as new things come out, we just need to get on board and start making those changes.
Working with Dr. Schwalm is like working with a surprise every day, and just a really passionate surprise. She's just a pleasure to work with. She is constantly doing the most that she can to help our patients, and it really does inspire all of us, especially myself, to continue to do that with each and every one of our patients. Dr. Schwalm shows compassion to her patients by always going the next mile. So at Bronson, we always try to do everything that we can to provide the best quality care, but Dr. Schwalm does that and more, and she does it with the most heart that you can imagine. For staff, she just always takes time to be there for us, so it's never her job to do that, but she does it, and she does it because she cares, not because she has to. I've learned many things from Dr. Schwalm. One of them is to just be myself. So I think as a psychologist, in our training, often there's like very strict boundaries and we're taught to do things in a very specific way. But upon meeting Dr. Schwalm, I just learned that allowing my personality to come through has been probably one of the things that allows me to connect most with my patients. And she did that just by being who she is.
What I love about working with Dr. Schwalm is that she is very genuine in her work. She's always open to thoughts, ideas, questions. She's always wanting to improve our work environment and our flow and just help everybody be the best that they can be. Dr. Schwalm shows compassion to her patients and staff by just being an active listener. We literally had a family in yesterday that told me that their favorite provider out of everyone that they see anywhere is Dr. Schwalm. They said that they love that she is always open to their questions, or if they read something online, that she's happy to like have that discussion, and if she doesn't know anything, she's so eager to do a deep dive and find out more information for them. She's always very honest about what her intents are, what her plans are, what's happening, what's coming next. And I find that it builds a lot of trust, and so it's something that I've transferred into my position working with our patients, and I know that they genuinely appreciate that.
What I love best about working with Dr. Schwalm is just her passion and her love for all the hem-onc patients that we take care of here in the clinic. Every day she comes to work with a great attitude, and her ability to make those connections with the patients and families is phenomenal. And she does the same with all of us, and she's easy to sit down to and relate with. And I think that just shows in her connections that she makes with everyone. What I use in my practice that I've learned from her is the ability to make those connections. She, again, really likes to relate to the patients and families and takes time to sit down with them and make those connections. And then she just makes it fun. So she makes it fun to work with. She makes it fun for the patients. She has different outfits that she wears for different patients, and she loves her flamingos, which is also fun to see her just show up in her different outfits every day. So.
I love working with Dr. Schwalm because she is fun, she makes coming to work enjoyable, but not only do we have fun, like we take very good care of our patients together. Her and I work well as a team. Dr. Schwalm shows compassion to her patients and staff by taking extra time to listen to them, always looking for ways to help them outside of the box, not just what we do here, but like she's always looking for other ways to help them in their everyday life. I actually went through cancer, and she was there for me through the whole process. She always had inspiring words and was just always asking if I needed anything else, and she does that for her patients also. Dr. Schwalm has taught me to not only take really good care of the patients, but she also can have fun while doing that. She has taught me so much about Children's Oncology Group. She has taken the time to show me new ways of doing things, and I bring that to work every day.
She always likes to have fun, and she's creative, and she makes sure that everybody is taken care of here in the clinic, and so I just feel loved by her. And she also makes me laugh, which is one big important thing that I feel like is needed in a workplace like this. So she's always checking in with the staff to make sure that they are feeling valued down here. And if they're not, she goes above and beyond to contact whoever needs to be contacted to make sure that the concerns are taken care of. As far as the patients go, I feel like it's the same thing. Like, she spends time with them, she listens to them, hears them out, and then, she always, even if it's the littlest thing, like we had a patient that her one last request was to go to Florida, and she really made phone calls and made that happen. So I just feel like she always goes above and beyond. She's taught me how to use my resources. I feel like, before I came down here in the clinic, I was working more task-oriented with kids upstairs on the 3rd floor, but coming down here, you really have to utilize the resources around you to make things happen. And I feel like she's really taught me how to use those resources, and she's taught me what resources are out there. So I feel like that's really important for me as a nurse to know, and I appreciate that about her. So.
I thought of a couple words when I was thinking about words to describe Carla. They included things like relentless and driven, and actually the word that I came up with that described her the best, I think, is fierce. She is an advocate, and she is strong, and I admire that strength she has, and that also the fact that she doesn't let anybody tell her what she can or can't do. And so that strength and that fire is what makes her an awesome leader.
One word I would describe Dr. Schwalm would be fierce. I mean, she is a fighter for her patients. She knows what she wants. She's a great advocate for it. and she is willing to help you meet her expectations in any way she can.
I would use the word passionate to describe Dr. Schwalm.
If I could use one word to describe Dr. Schwalm, it would be passionate.
One word I would use to describe Dr. Schwalm is dedicated. She is so incredibly dedicated to the clinic, her patients, us as staff. She supports everybody in any way that she can. She's, like I said, always open to ideas and hearing feedback and making improvements, but she just genuinely cares about the work she does. She cares about her patients and she cares about us as coworkers. She's an amazing leader and it makes it a great environment to work here.
I'd say one word I would use to describe her is dedicated. She is always looking to not only improve herself and those around her, but to improve the process for patients and families too. And so finding new ways to do things, better ways to do things, and trying to make it as easy as possible for staff and patients.
The one word I would use to describe Dr. Schwalm is motivated. She is always looking for ways to make improvements here in the clinic and at Bronson. She is our biggest cheerleader. She always wants to make the process better for the children and for the staff.
One word I would use to describe Dr. Schwalm would be cool. Like, she's so cool. I mean, and all her patients think she's so cool. She's always got the best shoes, the best outfits, and I feel like the kids and the staff were always wondering what she's gonna come in wearing, and she can pull it off. A lot of us are like, I can never pull that off, but she can. So I would say cool. She's awesome.
What I love about working with Dr. V is the compassion he shows his patients and his patients' families. It is recognized by all caregivers at every level, and we are so proud of him. He is very open. He wants to know what's going on with all of our lives and our spouses. We are all very tight-knit and close team. And he includes everybody in the team that we work with. As a nurse, what I've learned from Dr. V is to be patient and to listen to patients and families.
What I love about working with Dr. V is that he's always a team player. He's always willing to help out wherever it's needed. He's always been kind and a great teacher and just a good teammate to have. I think Dr. V shows compassion to his patients and staff because he treats them like he would treat family. So he really takes time to listen to them, listen to their concerns, and works with them to figure out how he can help them. Provider, one thing I've learned from Dr. V is to be more empathetic to what our patients are going through. And I think when we have a better understanding of what they're feeling and what their concerns are, what scares them, what they're going through, it helps you to be a better provider to be able to care for them.
What do I love about working with Dr. V? He's a really great mentor to me. He's been just a limitless fountain of little tidbits here and there. I know if there's something I'm not really sure about and there's sort of two different routes to go, I can ask him and he gives me obviously a really honest opinion, and he always starts with, well, what's right for the patient? It always starts and ends with it. How does Dr. V show compassion to patients and staff? He kind of considers everybody, all the way down to just filling out the call schedule. We kind of we joke sometimes and we call him Dad because he'll always be, more likely to work, stay late and whatnot. He's always here. He says hi to everybody, smiles to everybody, treats everybody with respect. What have I learned from Dr. V that I use in my practice? Everything starts and ends with the patient. So if I have that in mind, whatever tools or techniques I can bring to the table to sort of reorient myself and set that aside and say, well, what does the patient need? How can we do it? And then how are they going to recover from that? So.
What I love about working with Dr. V is that he's very approachable. He's someone who's always available. And when I first started here, I was a fresh graduate from fellowship, and you're always trying to, you're always unsure of yourself at that time. And he would be available even in the middle of the night, give him a call with a tough patient, and he'd be approachable and be willing to give you advice. And there's many times where he came into the hospital and helped me out too. So from that standpoint, he's very kind, very generous with his time and with himself as well. So those are the major reasons why I really love working with the guy. He's very approachable. He's somebody who can relate to everybody. He has I hate to say it, he's not old by any means, but he's had a lot of life experiences. And because of those life experiences, he's able to relate to a lot of people and kind of he gives them hope, but he also sets expectations very well. And because of that, I think he's able to get down to the level of the person and give them the right advice that they need. The things that I've learned from Dr. V that I use in my practice, it's his demeanor with patients, it's his demeanor with just working daily. A lot of times you get frustrated with certain things, but you look at him and he does a very good job of at least managing those frustrations and trying to just be very cool and level-headed. And those are the things I try to learn from him as well.
What I love about working with Dr. V is his compassion and empathy for his patients. Dr. V shows his compassion to patients and staff by always putting them first. He's just basically selfless. As an MA, I've learned a lot by Dr. V. Again, positive attitude, again, always putting the patient first. It's almost like putting himself in the patient's shoes.
What I love working with Dr. V is that he's very approachable. He's very kind. Anything that's going on in the office, he is really good about delegating things. Dr. V shows compassion by being very gentle with his patients and staff. Dr. V is a very special person. He has a very good energy about him that he brings to the staff and the patients. It's just very calming to be with, and he always has a positive attitude. If anything was going on with him, you would never know it because he's always in a good mood.
What I love about working with Dr. V is that he is always putting the patient first. He's always present. He's always offering a helping hand. And he really creates a team atmosphere at work. The way Dr. V shows compassion to patients and his staff is that he's always listening to them and offering feedback. He is always present for advice. He also checks in with his patients even when he's overseas. He has called from India or the Caribbean to see how his patients are doing. So I know when he is not at work, part of him is not here. And so he's always trying to be involved. What I've learned from Dr. Vadanini that I've used in my practice is that he has been a mentor to me after starting here as my first job as a vascular surgeon here. He has showed me how you can step outside of the book when you're talking to your patients and taking care of them, and how we provide a care that is very patient-centric. And we want to have results for them that will last them not just for the near future, but also for their lifetime. He really shows us that we are their surgeons, not just for today and tomorrow, but also for 5 years from now or 10 years from now. The relationships that he's made with his patients and their families, you can see them even in conversation with him when you bring up a certain scenario and he can recall exact details even though it may have occurred 8 years ago.
What I love about working with Dr. Vadanini is that he's just a very warm, very kind person. I always enjoy walking in and speaking with him in the morning. He's very easy to talk to, And he's very, very intelligent, so he gives me a lot of very good advice about treating patients and about treatment plans. So he's just a great person. Dr. Vadney shows compassion to his patients and staff by always just taking the time to sit down and speak with the patient. He always makes eye contact. He will, put his hand on their hand if they're having an emotional moment. He just reassures them. He just has a very, very kind manner about him. I've never seen him be disrespectful to any of his staff members, and he's always just been a very good person around, and everyone enjoys speaking with him, and I've never heard a negative word. What I've learned from Dr. Vadney that I use in my practice is I've learned to have a lot more confidence in myself. I've taken a lot of what he said and given me advice, and I've implemented that into my interactions with my patients.
I love working with Dr. V because he's a very compassionate, caring man. He puts his patients first, and that's the way it should be. Dr. V shows compassion to his staff and patients by giving them the time that they need. He will go through it over and over and over again until the patient understands it. Same with staff. He's very kind and generous with them and spends as much time as he needs to with them. The one thing I have learned that he has taught me is to be more compassionate than I already have been. He does take the extra time, and so I do too.
Dr. V shows compassion to his patients and staff by always having their best interest at heart. So I've seen with him in multiple situations with patients, either recommending for or against surgery with really solid rationale as to why. And then as an employee that works closely with him, I actually just recently had an injury myself and needed care, and he really was supportive of me wanting to make sure that I got taken care of and, followed up with me, texting me to make sure I was okay and if I needed anything. So he extends the same compassion to his colleagues and employees that he does to his patients. So as a practice manager, what I've learned from Dr. V that I use every day in my work is that what we do here is taking care of the patients, and that should always be the priority. So whenever we're making decisions, it should always be what's best for the patient, or how do we take care of the patient to the best of our ability.
I love working with Dr. Vadney because he's incredibly kind, patient, smart, funny. Every single day. Every single day, that's how he is. He shows compassion to patients and staff by his gentle demeanor. It has a calming presence, and I think that's reassuring to staff when things get hard in the OR, and it's got to be reassuring to his patients when they're sick. Dr. Vadney has been such an example to all of us in the operating room by being respectful, kind, and patient with everybody he comes in contact with. And I think that goes a long way when you're in a stressful environment. So I try to emulate that. I just want to say I'm actually retiring soon, and working with Dr. Vadney all these years has truly been an honor to be on his vascular team. Yeah.
One word I would use to describe Dr. V is his calmness.
One word I would use to describe Dr. V is he's kind and caring.
Patience is probably the best one. He's never quick to make a decision necessarily without kind of considering everything. He wants to know all the information and the patient themselves rather. And he's patient with me. He's patient with other providers, and with our patients as well. So he knows a lot of time you don't need to act right away, and it's best to be conservative a lot of times, and they'll do better off then.
The one word I would use to describe Dr. V is genuine. He's a very genuine person. You see what you get. He's not trying to hide anything from himself or from you.
One word I would use to describe Dr. V is passionate about his job.
One word that I would use to describe Dr. Vadnini would be that he is amazing in many different ways.
The one word that I would use to describe Dr. V would be compassionate.
The one word I would use to describe Dr. V is compassionate.
Dr. V in one word, funny.
Dr. V would be described in one word as, it's his kindness. It's kindness.